Okay, I'm doing a review of Soulcalibur 5, and that's terribly exciting for all of you. God, I sound like an arse when I say that. Logical place to start is the roster. It consists of 28 characters, and that's a fair amount. It's double digits, starts with a 2, that's always a good place to start. But they could probably throw in a few more chums for the fighters and no one would complain. They can't really get much less, that would just not go well for them. But the main problem with the roster is that loads of the old fighters just aren't there anymore. Veteran fighters just all being discarded left, right and centre in this game because it's set 17 years after, and even though we had a very good thing going in Soul Calibur 4, with that time period we skipped 17 years. And there's two problems with this. One is their selection process seems flawed and very suspect. Namco come across as sort of not so secretly sexist, because how they treat the young to middle-aged female characters, like they're replaced with a child, or they're replaced with children, or they're replaced with an apprentice, or they don't age really and they just cut their hair and claim to have aged, or they just don't change at all over the time, or they don't age due to magical swords and any convenient excuse to allow them to wear scandalous clothes and pretend to be a dominatrix with their little whip thing. Because why not? Just ignored, actually. Lots of them just got ignored and rejected. But while this is happening, male characters are walking around, just being all happy, old enough to have children the age of the female characters who are rejected, just old enough to have children who are fighting on their own, but no, they're still there. Just because they're men, and that's how it rolls apparently in that time. But the other problem is I can't appreciate the feeling that they could have included these characters they kicked out as younger versions, as non-official, non-canon characters for arcade, because they include Enzio from Assassin's Creed, his non-canon, so there's no reason not to include other non-canon characters who are important to the Soul Calibur franchise, such as Saramina, who's been there since the first one, or Taki. It doesn't make much sense, and the selection process is strange. Because as I've explained, it's not their age, because they have older characters walking around and get rid of all the younger ones. And it's not that important to the story, because they have Lizard Man sort of trotting around being a lizard and whatnot, and he's not in story mode. He's just a lizard. So it's not important story mode or that, it's just, if you're a woman, you're cute and attractive, and don't wear clothes. And if you're a man, you're big and strong and hit people with a sword. And occasionally a lizard thrown in, because who doesn't want that? Okay, so that's a whole lot of bad at once. So now we move on to the good. Okay, the fighting's improved, like way improved. This is largely due to it being much faster, and this is sort of encapsulated by 8-way dash. It just makes everything go faster because you dodge faster, you can do those sideways walking moves which you usually set them up in the air. Good for combos, look rather flashy, show off while you're doing them. And just, it seems good, but characters' move lists have been reduced. A lot. And it's not ideal, but I mean, if you play the games before, you start playing, you're a bit like, oh my god, all my moves have changed, and they're gone, and they're now simple to do. But if you haven't played the game before, this isn't much problem for you, and Brave Edge has been thrown in, and that just seems like a clever way to use complex moves and make them simple again by pressing a trigger every now and again. And they also threw in critical edges, which are essentially hyper combos from Marvel vs. Capcom Street Fighter, and I don't know how I feel about them. I use them to fit in, because why wouldn't you? But I've lost matches before as Alexia, because the dialogue is the exact same when they use it, unless you're like Patch Please and you're against Pyrrha, then they say it's only a tiny bit different. But with Alexia, I just couldn't bear to hear her yell, "As my mother thought justice will prevail!" again. So I lose because I won't do it. It's just... it's a tiny bit repetitive at times. Especially because you'll be able to use a critical finish like 3 times a match, probably. So just 3 times the same dialogue. That type of thing that makes you want to hit your head on the wall. Don't do it. Also, if you look at the individual characters, their design is superb. They're designed with such intricacy and imagination and brilliance that the characters look amazing. And then you can see it as like not only the anime inspiration, they say, their designs. And I just love all their... On top of this, the new fighting style added Violin's Way both amazing additions. They show the upped creativity shown regarding the fighters, and they both use supernatural, and they both use unique movesets, and they both add to the game, especially Viola in my opinion. I love Viola, she's my second favourite character. And considering half the roster are 3 new, I was expecting a bit more, but in their defense, the replacements and the new generation of souls, they're not clones of the older selves, like Lexia and Shanghua. Lexia is slower than Shanghua, but has a much greater reach, and she knocks people in the air more. And I feel that just changes her fighting style, and I don't know the other ones as much, because I use Lexia quite a lot, but she's not a replica of Shanghua in a way I originally thought she would be. It shows Project Soul taking initiatives, and they've not just replicated, but they've thought, what would a younger version fight like? A more flexible, faster but less trained version, how would that work? And they made Lexia, who I prefer. But if your character's been replaced, like if your favourite character was Taki, and now you've got Natsu, and I see why people would be upset, because they're not really the same. But if you don't have a favourite character who's been replaced, then that's not really a problem for you. So now we jump from a good thing to a bad thing to make a good thing sandwich with bad things. But it's a single player, and the offline mode, like the story mode's just bad sandwich, bad. They said they got the people from like Naruto or some Naruto game to help with story mode, and it's just like, how did you do this so wrong? Because the Naruto story mode's gone forever. And this is the correct length for story mode if you had like 4 other story modes for different character point of views and individual arcade endings, but you don't. You get to follow Patroclus around, and maybe it's a silly bit of Pyrrha. She turns up every now and again, but it's just like Patroclus. And it's not very exciting. And I don't know why I was surprised that I was let down by Patroclus. The only other person called Patroclus I know is from the Iliad, and he's just like Achilles' bitch. And he died the first chance of combat he gets. But Patroclus, he just walks around, he's one-dimensional, he wants justice. If he can't get justice, he stabs pale people. That scoundrel. And it's... yeah, it's rather irritating that it's so focused on him. Especially at one point when Maxie's talking to Lexia, and he's just like, oh. And the audience don't. Because Patroclus doesn't, and we're not allowed to know anything Patroclus doesn't.
You can't trust everyone.
And you just get the feeling that
last time.
the second and also it's really not long. It's an hour to 2 hours, depends how good you are, Patroclus. Really awesome stuff happens behind him, and you miss it. I would say that was a letdown, and by the end of it you're a bit like, Patroclus, your mum was so cool. What happened to you? But I will defend it. I love Pyrrha. I love Pyrrha in the story mode, the little bit she gets, I love her. I love that she's the character who doesn't want to fight, and that's incorporated to how she how her fighting style works and how she talks and everything. She's like Noelle Vermillion from BlazBlue, and I just love her, especially one that encapsulates this, when she sort of stabs the ground repeatedly and yells, "I don't want to die." It just makes her appealing to me in a way that I haven't got with any other characters. She's the first character I like due to their character opposed to their fighting style. But yeah, single player, that's pretty much the main thing. You get Legends of the Sword. And that's good. It's really hard. And the comms are they're a giant nuisance. Those scallywags just want to knock you off the edge and spam you with this low combo, high combo rush. And it took me like 70 minutes. And it's super embarrassing, but it adds to a lifetime because it's really hard. But yeah. Single player, bit of a... Okay, so moving on to creation mode. Creation is awesome. Like, literally, it's just the thing that sets it apart from the previous games. Because it's like Soulcalibur 4's creation, but on awesome. It is just amazing. The only thing is when you start, you don't get as much cool stuff you would like when you're level 1, but you're level 1. Make do. I think level 20, you get some really cool stuff. And you get stuff before then, it's just not really cool. And when you level up, you can make like the most fly warrior ever. He will just, or she will just be amazing looking. And you can be really creative and you can put patterns on it. It's just, that's where the game shines in my opinion. Though the other area, which is very good as well, is the multiplayer. And the reason multiplayer is good is because it throws in the characters, and the characters are amazingly designed. I forgot to say so, their designs are fantastic. And it throws in the gameplay, which has been increased, and it throws in creation mode. It throws everything the game does well into one place, and that's where you should stay. You should do everything else and you should stay there. Because that is the best place for the game. Okay, so, in conclusion, it's good. It is a good game, it just really needs DLC, because it needs new story modes. I personally think they should throw in the story mode for Lexia, Maxi, Natsu, and Little Keelik. Then one for like Siegfried and Hilde, then one for Zwei and Viola, and just throw in all these story modes. Because the story mode's a good length if it's one of many, as I said, and arcade endings. If they threw in all these, it could be as good as Soulcalibur 2, which was my favourite Soulcalibur game. But without these, it feels like you're playing a game which just was released way before it was meant to. As if it like fell out of the factory or whatever, and they've just claimed it's done. So I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10. And I can't help feeling I've been a bit generous and it's leaning more towards 7. But I just love it. Even though I know it's lacking, just the fighting mechanics and the creation just make up for me. So 7.5. 7.5. Okay, so that concludes my review of Soulcalibur 5. Leave comments on what you thought about it, not necessarily my review, what you thought about the game as well. I'd like to see if you guys agree with me, or if there's any other interesting points I've missed, or anything that anyone has on their mind really. If you would like, I've also done a review of the Hunger Games novel. You can just sort of hop over into my channel if you're considering reading it before the film comes out, just to see if it's up your street. If not, thank you very much for watching. Leave comments of anything else you want reviewed, and hope I didn't waste your time. Signing out in a dramatic fashion.